I'm Dr. Katie Gatika, a whole food, plant-based nutrition and food addiction recovery coach. In this video, I want to show you how to use brain science to stop food cravings in their tracks, so you can stick to your healthy eating efforts without succumbing to that saboteur in your brain, okay? So here's what most people do when they have a craving for cookies or potato chips or pizza or chocolate, whatever. One is they white knuckle it. They rely on willpower to just battle through the craving, and they end up rolled up into a ball, gritting their teeth in the corner, waiting for it to pass. Or two, they argue with themselves about it, trying to use logic to talk themselves out of eating that cookie. Or three, they simply give in to the craving, not wanting to fight that exhausting willpower battle. And they just go ahead and eat the potato chips, thinking they'll start over tomorrow, right? So here's what happens when people do those things. When they do all of these things, if they're white knuckling it, if they're arguing with themselves, or they're giving in to the craving, all of these things are actually reinforcing those neural pathways in their brain, those pathways that produce those cravings. They're strengthening them so that those urges will repeat and compel the person to eat over and over again, just trapping them in a food prison, right? When that happens, it occupies more and more of their brain space so that they're thinking about food all the time, and it's hard to focus on more important things in life. And maybe they feel like their cravings just have total control over them, right? They're feeling trapped, discouraged, maybe even broken, like they can't figure out this food issue in their health. And maybe the number on the scale isn't going down quite as fast as they would like, if at all. And, they're probably no closer to their health goals. So how do we overcome cravings and stay on track with our healthy eating efforts? So first, we need to understand where cravings originate in the brain. So food cravings originate in the brain's reward center, which is responsible for releasing dopamine. It's a feel-good chemical. It's a neurotransmitter in our brain that makes us feel good. So when we eat something tasty, it releases dopamine in our pleasure centers in our brain and, rewards that center. And that's where those cravings originate from. Those neural pathways are also intertwined with the parts of our brain that form memories, so that we remember that pleasurable experience and can seek it out again in the future. These neural pathways also interact with the parts of our brain, so namely the lower brain, and we're talking about the brainstem and the limbic system. They're in this kind of back here in the lower part of our brain. Those parts are responsible for keeping us alive, our automatic survival mechanisms and processes like breathing, heart rate, blood pressure, things like that. So the limbic system has three objectives. One, to keep us alive, our survival. Two, to seek pleasure. And three, to avoid pain. So when we eat something hyper palatable, something super tasty, whether it's, sugary, fatty, and or salty, or all three, that really stimulates the dopamine pleasure centers in our brain. And two, our brain remembers it. And three, it starts to integrate that as an automatic process that the lower brain then begins to think is necessary for our survival. Hence, this food prison trap is created. The good news is those neural pathways can be changed. It's the concept of neuroplasticity, that our brain is plastic, that it can change. So those food urges and cravings really are simply the result of some unwanted programming, and that programming can be changed and rewired. So how do we rewire the brain so that food cravings no longer control our actions? Number one, stop acting on those urges. Every time we act on an urge, we reward it, we strengthen it, we reinforce that neural pathway. And every time we don't act on it, we weaken it. Now, before you get all up in arms, I know this is easier said than done. Not acting on a craving is hard. It's hard. But why is it so hard? Okay. So it's because our brain makes us feel very uncomfortable until we give in to that craving. Okay. If you notice, like if you're trying not to give in to a craving, like how does that feel? It's uncomfortable, right? Our brain makes us feel uncomfortable because it thinks that unless we eat that cookie, we will die, right? Again, faulty programming here, but that's the process that's going on. So remember, the limbic system drives us to stay alive, seek pleasure, and avoid pain. It's accomplishing all three of those objectives by making us feel uncomfortable until we give in and eat that pleasurable food. Okay, so this really becomes a question of how to deal with the discomfort until the craving fades away, which it will if you give it a few minutes. I'm going to give you the first of a 4-step process to dismissing food urges. We're only going to do the first step in this video. I don't want to overwhelm you with everything at once. It's a very actionable step, and it's the most important step to get you on your way to easily dismissing cravings without white knuckling it. You ready? So this first step is to recognize where that craving is coming from. Recognize where that food thought is coming from. It's coming from your lower brain. And to recognize that it is not you. All right. And when I say you, I mean like your true self, your higher thinking brain, your mind. Okay. What makes you you? Your cravings are not you. They are separate from you. Again, it's just faulty wiring making white noise that does not need to be obeyed or even paid attention to. You need to recognize the thought when it comes up as just a thought. Again, it's like white noise, lower brain, meaningless thought. You can even observe it as though it were floating outside of you. Okay. As you practice this, and again, it's really just a mindset shift. It's a change in perspective on your inner experience. As you practice this, the craving will start to lose its power over you. It's like this. If you're walking on the street and some stranger walks up to you and suggests that you burst into a restaurant and start dancing like a madman on some random people's table, would you do it? Or would you say, dude, you're insane, and just keep going about your day, right? That's a separate person making a ridiculous suggestion that is not in line with your identity or your life goals, right? That's what your relationship with your cravings can start to become. You can start to see your cravings for what they really are, just ridiculous suggestions, and start to realize that you don't need to be controlled by them. You can just let them roll off your back without them affecting you. So here's my challenge for you today. Just start observing your thoughts. Just start identifying the thoughts that pop up in your head that feel like cravings and label them. And you can even talk to it. Just say like, hello, craving. I see you, but you're just white noise from my lower brain. Your suggestion is ridiculous. Okay. See how this one simple perspective shift starts to change your relationship with your cravings and start to help you make your healthy eating efforts a little easier to stick to. And let me know what aha moments you had from this video. I'd love to hear it.